Many years ago in the land of Israel, there lived a man named Manoah and his wife, who was barren and had not been able to conceive a child. Despite their longing for a child, they remained faithful to God and prayed earnestly for his blessing. One day, an angel of the Lord appeared to Manoah's wife, saying,
"You are barren and childless, but you are going to become pregnant and give birth to a son. Now see to it that you drink no wine or other fermented drink, and that you do not eat anything unclean. You will become pregnant and have a son whose head is never to be touched by a razor, because the boy is to be a Nazirite, dedicated to God from the womb. He will take the lead in delivering Israel from the hands of the Philistines."
Overwhelmed by this divine visitation, Manoah's wife ran to tell her husband the news. Manoah prayed to God, asking for guidance and seeking confirmation of the angel's words. In response, God sent the angel once again to visit Manoah and his wife. When the angel appeared, Manoah asked, "When your words are fulfilled, what is to be the rule that governs the boy's life and work?" The angel replied,
"Your wife must do all that I have told her. She must not eat anything that comes from the grapevine, nor drink any wine or other fermented drink, nor eat anything unclean. She must do everything I have commanded her."
Manoah then asked the angel to stay while they prepared a young goat as a sacrifice to God. As the flames from the sacrifice ascended to heaven, the angel ascended in the fire, confirming the divine nature of the visitation. Filled with awe and reverence, Manoah and his wife praised God for his goodness and mercy. They named their son Samson, meaning like the sun, and raised him according to the angel's instructions, dedicating him to God from birth. Samson rose to prominence in Israel, known for his incredible strength and unique Nazirite vow. Samson, guided by the Spirit of the Lord, sought to challenge the Philistine oppressors who ruled over Israel. One day, Samson traveled to the Philistine town of Timnah, where he encountered a young lion. In a display of his extraordinary strength, Samson tore the lion apart with his bare hands, a feat that astounded all who witnessed it. Sometime later, as Samson returned to Timnah for his wedding, he passed by the carcass of the lion and found that bees had created a hive inside it, producing honey. Samson, without revealing the source of the honey, shared it with his family, demonstrating his bold and unconventional nature. At his wedding feast, Samson posed a riddle to the Philistine guests, challenging them to solve it within 7 days. The riddle, out of the eater, something to eat, out of the strong, something sweet, puzzled the Philistines, who could not discern its meaning. Desperate for an answer, the Philistine guests pressured Samson's wife to discover the riddle's solution. She pleaded with Samson until he relented and revealed the answer to her. She, in turn, shared it with the Philistines, betraying Samson's trust. On the 7th day, as the Philistines confidently answered the riddle, Samson realized that they had learned the answer through deceit. Consumed with anger, he left the feast and traveled to Ashkelon, where he took the lives of 30 men and took their garments to fulfill his promise of a prize. This incident marked the beginning of Samson's conflict with the Philistines, foreshadowing the struggles and battles that would define his life. At another time, Samson visited his wife, but his hopes were dashed when he realized that she had been given to another man. In a bold act of revenge, Samson captured 300 foxes, tied them together in pairs, and set their tails ablaze, unleashing them into the Philistine fields, which were soon engulfed in flames. The Philistines, in their fury, retaliated by taking the lives of Samson's wife and her father. Consumed by grief and rage, Samson waged a one-man war against the Philistines, striking them down with unmatched ferocity. Seeking refuge in a cave at the rock of Etam, Samson found himself surrounded by Philistine soldiers. The men of Judah, fearing the Philistines' reprisal, urged Samson to surrender. Reluctantly, Samson agreed, but only if they promised not to harm him. As the Philistines closed in, the Spirit of the Lord came upon Samson, filling him with renewed strength. With nothing but the jawbone of a donkey in his hand, Samson fought back, single-handedly defeating 1,000 Philistine soldiers in a stunning display of courage and might. After the battle, exhausted and parched, Samson cried out to the Lord for relief. In a miraculous answer to his prayer, water gushed forth from a hollow place in the ground, refreshing Samson's weary body and soul. One day, Samson went to the city of Gaza, a stronghold of the Philistines, and spent the night there. When the people of Gaza learned that Samson was in their city, they surrounded it, intending to capture him at dawn. But Samson was not one to be easily captured. In the middle of the night, he got up and went to the city gates, where he found them securely fastened. Undeterred, Samson tore the city gates from their hinges, bars and all, and carried them to the top of a hill facing Hebron, a city of the Israelites. It was a remarkable display of strength and defiance, showing the Philistines that even in their own stronghold, Samson was a force to be reckoned with. Time passed, and he fell in love with a woman named Delilah, who lived in the valley of Sorek. The rulers of the Philistines saw an opportunity to capture Samson and approached Delilah with a tempting offer, a large sum of money in exchange for discovering the secret of Samson's strength. Delilah, enticed by the promise of wealth, repeatedly asked Samson to reveal the source of his strength.
"Tell me the secret of your great strength and how you can be tied up and subdued,"
she said. 3 times he deceived her, telling her that his strength would be weakened if he were bound with fresh bowstrings, new ropes, or if his hair were woven into a loom. Each time, Delilah tested his words, only to find herself deceived. Finally, Delilah said,
"How can you say, 'I love you,' when you won't confide in me? This is the 3rd time you have made a fool of me and haven't told me the secret of your great strength."
With such nagging, she prodded him day after day until he was sick to death of it. So he told her everything. "No razor has ever been used on my head, because I have been a Nazirite dedicated to God from my mother's womb. If my head were shaved, my strength would leave me, and I would become as weak as any other man." While Samson slept, Delilah betrayed him, cutting his hair and robbing him of his strength. The Philistines seized him, gouged out his eyes, and brought him to Gaza, where he was bound in bronze shackles and forced to grind grain in the prison. Despite his downfall, Samson's hair began to grow back, a sign of God's mercy and restoration. One day, the Philistine leaders gathered in a great temple to celebrate their victory over Samson. They brought him out to entertain them, unaware that his strength had returned. Samson, leaning against the temple's pillars, prayed to God for strength one last time. With a mighty effort, he pushed against the pillars, saying, "Let me die with the Philistines." The temple collapsed, killing himself and all the Philistines inside, including the rulers. Thus, Samson's life ended in a final act of strength and redemption, as he sacrificed himself to deliver Israel from the oppression of the Philistines. Though flawed and fallen, Samson's story reminds us of the power of repentance, redemption, and God's unwavering faithfulness to his people.